What nobody will tell you is that the proper way to lose weight and get in amazing shape is the opposite of a diet. Okay? Because a diet indicates an unsustainable approach that you could do for 30-day challenge, 60-day challenge, 90-day challenge. The key to sustaining being in amazing shape, not just getting there, but actually sustaining it, because what's the point if you get there but can't sustain it, is a lifestyle change, not a fucking diet. And today I'm going to go over exactly what I mean by that and what is required and what I've done to not only get in the best shape of my life, but sustain it year round. Okay? So the shocking truth about weight loss is that 95% of people fail their diet because it's a fucking diet. I've done the keto. I've done the bullshit. There's so many people that I've lost weight. I can do it again. You shouldn't have to do it again if you took the right approach. Or you're just spinning in wheels, What's the point if you make $1 million and spend it all and then have to make it again? You want to sustain it. 66% of people regain their weight within 3 to 5 years. That is not an ideal number. And then 30% of people, let the restriction overtake their entire life. And it obviously eventually leads to rebounding in the future. It shows why the traditional diet approach is not working. Restriction always leads to burnout. Okay? This is why this shit never works. Instead, what I used to be, and I've been there too, is strict calorie counting, forbidden foods, that I couldn't touch. They were completely off limits. I felt like shit after every single meal. And that would the restriction would lead to binging on the weekends, and then my weight would go down and up, and I'll constantly lose and gain and always have to start over every fucking week. And it was until I discovered that my diet wasn't the problem, or it was the problem. That wasn't the solution. So it was actually keeping me stuck with my approach when I thought it would lead me to where I wanted to be. And it wasn't that my body or metabolism was fucked. It was literally just my approach. It wasn't that I was lacking discipline. I just was taking the wrong route. I always thought working harder was the key to results, but it's not true. The real problem with dieting is that extreme restriction, obviously, it signals to your body to hold on to whatever you have, okay? And over time, that makes it harder to lose weight and way easier to gain it back, not only physically, but mentally, okay? Physiological damage, because labeling foods as good or bad or completely off limits, it causes over restriction, it causes an unhealthy relationship with food, and causes you to feel guilty if you have something bad and eventually rebound. Over restriction always leads to burnout and rebellion. And if you can see food from a different light rather than good and bad, as food is just fuel, and will this help me feel good, or will it not as much? Do I need this? That will much further heal your relationship with food, 100%. Unsustainable habits. Most diets demand perfection, and it's impossible to maintain. It really is. Because at the end of the day, most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in 6 months. Small tweaks that fit within your life is what's required. And then loss of body trust, because your body's natural hunger and fullness is going to constantly be overruled with these rules that you're creating in your head. And because of that, it's going to make you feel all over the place and not have a strict path, and you're just going to feel lost and way more stuck than if you took the proper approach. Okay? Now, what I did was I didn't follow a meal plan. When I truly figured it out, I started learning how to intuitively eat. Now, intuitively eating properly doesn't mean eating whatever the fuck, whenever the fuck, okay? It was when I genuinely felt like I needed energy, and then I fueled it the proper way. And I did this by learning how to track for a little bit. Once I tracked for a little bit, I started to understand the deep value of food and how to properly fuel my body for when I realized I needed it. Joyful movement, right? I started falling in love with the things that I was doing for exercise, like moving on a day-to-day basis, but not punishing myself, because that obviously leads to over restriction. Sleeping as a priority. I mean, that's extremely important because if you don't get all your sleep, you're going to have way more cravings. Your weight is not accurately going to be reflected on the scale. And I'm just going to feel like shit throughout the day and be able to burn way less calories. Stress management. Having high stress also leads to increased weight on the scale, which you might not realize at the moment. You might think you're not making progress, but it's actually masking your progress. And obviously, that alone will also, managing that will reduce your cravings as well. And then building environments that support you, because in today's day and age, everything is destined to make you fail. Whether it's the fast food, whether it's how the grocery store is laid out, whether it's friends, like, come on, it won't hurt, this. Like, everyone, look at the average person, that's the environment around you. And you're the average who you surround yourself with. So if you're looking for above average results, you need to be able to do above average things. You need to surround yourself with people that will support that rather than take away from it, or else you're going to be challenging yourself to an extreme amount, way more than required or necessary. One day, this is the moment that changed everything for me, is when 6 months into my journey, I stood on the scale after bulking and cutting, and I realized that I was the exact same number, except I looked way different. Okay? 160 then looked way different than 160 now. And that's when I stopped focusing on the scale and what I could do to lose weight. And I started focusing on fueling my body properly. Because I knew that if you fuel your body properly internally, then your body reflects that externally. And the weight on the scale is never why I started this. It's to look and feel good. And when I learned how to do that properly, starting with what I was putting in my body and how I was moving, that's when I truly conquered everything. And it was not on the scale. It was how I looked and felt. Okay? I felt more sustained energy, way better mental clarity, and I was way more confident. And the best part is that fat loss happened as a side effect of treating your body properly. Like I just said, when you focus on feeling good internally, your body will reflect it rather than chasing a number on the scale. Because when you chase a number on the scale, then you're going to do not proper things to get there, including over restriction and stuff that never sticks, and you're going to feel like shit and not get the results that you want at the end of the day. So what I learned is your body's not your fucking enemy. You shouldn't be trying to punish it. You're supposed to fuel it properly, and the results will reflect that. Health is more than a number because, again, like exactly what I'm saying, chasing a number on the scale is not the end result here. It's feeling healthier. And when you focus on just how we feel, your body reflects that and your weight starts dropping down if you're trying to lose weight. Sustainability always beats perfection. So again, most people overestimate what they can do in a day, underestimate what they can do in 6 months. If you focus on small changes day by day, you'll be a completely different person in 6 months and actually be able to sustain it forever. And then lastly, food is not just fuel. It's also meant to be enjoyed. Okay? Now, if you stop punishing yourself or looking at food as good or bad and start learning how to include it in moderation to still help work towards your goals, that's when it's going to be an enjoyable process you can sustain forever. So, if you want to try a different approach and you've been struggling with yo-yoing up and down, number one, notice the patterns that you're currently going through. And eating without judgment, which is what I used to do. Like, observe why. Observe the cravings and how they are triggered, okay? Because that way, once you observe it, rather than running away from these things, that's when you can start to finally attack it. Pick one small change at a time. Maybe it's getting more steps. Maybe it's getting more sleep. Maybe it's getting more water. One step at a time can, again, if you read the book Atomic Habits, will drastically change your outcome in 6 months. Okay? Be consistent, not perfect. Nobody's perfect, okay? But what most people do is they have the all or nothing mindset. So if they fall off track one day, they're like, oh, that's it. And then they go all out on destroying all progress. Instead of that, it's extremely important to focus on staying consistent. If one day isn't ideal, you get back on track the next day. Because one bad day is not going to it's not going to ruin months of progress, of consistency, okay? That's what's most important. And lastly, focus mostly on how you feel over the weight on the scale, because that is the true goal that we all want here. Nobody actually wants a certain number on the scale. They want what that means, whether it's less weight, feeling better, more confident. And if you can focus inside on what makes you feel your best, you're always going to reflect that physically, okay? Now, I want to hear, in the comments your biggest struggle with traditional dieting, whether it's misinformation online or whatever, or what you resonated from. Also, feel free to connect with me on Instagram below, where I always post content like this every single day. DM me, send me a message, and we can have a conversation about sustainable health or fitness or whatever you want to have. I've personally gone through all the trial and error and done it myself. And if you want to see more practical tips and find out exactly how I got in the best shape of my life while including my favorite foods, working a 9-to-5 desk job, click the link in the description below. As always, I'll see you in the next video.